We're talking about sustainability and technology and the role that it plays within organisations. So Kathleen Walker from our Digital Transformation and Operations service line will be presenting first. The title of her presentation is Tech-Enabled Sustainability, Moving from Aspiration to Action. So one of the most common things we hear from organisations at the moment is that they have great sustainability ambitions and goals in place, but they're struggling to really pull it all together and make some meaningful progress. So Kathleen will explore the role of technology in making that all happen. I'll just check in again on the poll and see if you're all succeeding in answering that. Just bear with me 1 second. Yep. So I'll welcome Kathleen to come up and start her presentation. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Let me grab that.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for making the time today to talk through this really exciting topic around sustainability and technology and how the two will come together to make some exciting change. The age of sustainability has arrived. Please don't think me too optimistic for making such a claim. I'm well aware that there's plenty of work to be done in markets, in governments and communities around the globe in order for us to meet our quite serious social and environmental challenges, particularly when it comes to climate change. However, it is fair to say that some shifts over the last few years are significant, and they do point to be enthusiastic and optimistic about the future. Primarily, these changes relate to differences in the way corporate and commercial organisations are now thinking and talking about sustainability issues, social and environmental, and the ways in which these organisations are going to be, into the future, held to account for their performance and impact in this space. We're seeing changes in standards, in legislation, in regulations here in Australia, announced just this year that from 2024, organisations of a certain size and scope will be required not just to disclose their climate-related impacts, their carbon emissions, but also their action plans on how they're going to mitigate and improve their adaptivity to climate issues. In addition to these top-down levers in driving sustainability, performance and accountability in organisations, we're also happily seeing bottom-up movements within organisations themselves who are making public claims and setting public targets around their sustainability performance. These targets are often aspirational, they're long-term. You'll hear net zero by a certain time is very common. And this is really good news. It's good news for the planet, it's good news for people, and of course it's good news for profits, because we know organisations who make the most of the sustainability opportunity and also address their sustainability risk are those that will be the most successful into the future. There's plenty of value to be generated and lots of revenue to be protected. So that's the good news. There is, however, a challenge, and we're referring to this as the sustainability execution gap. This refers to the fact that in the main, these organisations who have made public commitments around their sustainability performance are not prepared to meet those targets and not prepared to meet the changes that they'll need to embed around disclosure on their sustainability impacts. There's a number of reasons for that, just a few listed here. The first of these is that sustainability teams, always passionate, always under-resourced, are struggling to have the kind of internal impact they'll need to drive the programs of change that they're custodians of. The other is that sustainability problems and outcomes are really complex. Pinning down who should drive which parts of those outcomes is really difficult for organisations. In the main, also, current approaches are largely indefensible. They're expensive, they're not having the impact that we need, and we really do need to see a shift in the way in which sustainability programs are resourced and rolled out. And technology, which of course brings us to a key topic today. Technology really is a double-edged sword for most of those working in sustainability programs inside corporate and commercial organisations, because the promise of technology is clear. There's absolutely great effort and impact to be made through the use of technology in driving sustainability strategy. But it's also a very risky space. There's lots of opportunity, it's unclear about the way forward, and mistakes made here can be very expensive. Bringing in tools or solutions that don't drive the value they're intended to is obviously a pitfall organisations are hoping to avoid. Another element of the complexity around executing on sustainability and why this is so hard for organisations at the moment is that, as I've said, sustainability issues are inherently complex. They're multifunctional, they're cross-organisational, and they're also organisational specific. A couple of examples we've got here today. These are material issues or material matters publicly disclosed by real-life companies, a digital or software provider, and a food manufacturer and retailer. You can see these material issues, which are the issues that these organisations have deemed to be the most critical to their sustainability performance. Sustainability here, obviously, in the broad sense of the term environment, social and governance. They differ greatly. For the digital company, clearly issues around customer data and privacy rank over issues around climate. But if you look to the food manufacturer and retailer, unsurprisingly, issues related with that business's environmental footprint and supply chain are the highest that that organisation is grappling with. So all of this combines really to create a really complex, very important, but really complex challenge for a business as it decides and thinks through how to move from good intention around sustainability to action and execution. Which is why we refer to tech-enabled sustainability as a great step forward for organisations wishing to move from aspiration to action in their sustainability space. And we talk about this because we know it's through technology that sustainability can become organisational wide. It can become data-led. It can become held across the organisation in programs of work that are efficient and continue to drive the results they need to. It's really only through tech that we can break down these complex outcomes, we can assign accountability, we can find the data to track our progress and help others meet us there. And it's really only through tech that we can build the internal innovation and adaptivity that we're going to need if these organisations continue to remain responsive to their sustainability risk, but also their opportunity. At Thoughtworks, we use a model for tech-enabled sustainability, and I'm going to talk about this just a little bit now because it does provide good context for the suggestions and recommendations I'm going to come to later, and it also shows the ways in which organisations are really grappling with this intersection between sustainability and technology and the exciting things that are possible. So this is our model for sustainable transformation. It's important to note that the model doesn't ask or require organisations to move through this in any linear way. Depending on where your organisation is, depends on what will be the highest priority for your organisation when thinking through how tech can help accelerate sustainability. But we'll go through the elements of the model right now, just to give you a little bit more understanding about how they help organisations pick the right path. The sustainable transformation model really does hopefully help our clients and partners navigate this complex intersection between sustainability and technology. In the foundations pillar, we work with organisations to think through how a sustainable transformation strategy might work for their business, looking at what's important in a sustainability strategy, what's important for the business in terms of technology, and discovering ways in which the two can come together and mutually drive those outcomes. And we build programs of work supported by the right goals and metrics and execution plans to see that work through. In our technology pillar, this is where we work with organisations and partners specifically on the infrastructure and operations of their tech function. What are the environmental or social issues most important when thinking about how a technology function runs within a business? The organisation pillar gives us the opportunity to think across the organisation. What are the sustainability material matters and priorities and objectives that technology can help support or accelerate that execution of sustainability strategy? It's also where we help organisations think through tricky spaces like data and modelling, supply chain and risk assessment, and also tech investment criteria for sustainability. What should you be thinking about when deciding on a way forward on a tech roadmap for sustainability? And finally, the market pillar asks organisations to think outward, to look at existing and potential products, services and experiences for their customers, to think through not just how the current portfolio might need to be augmented or even de-risked because of sustainability, but what new opportunities exist. And we also work with organisations to think through some of the market mechanisms that are becoming increasingly important for organisations in the sustainability space. We've had the opportunity to work with some really fabulous organisations in different industries and across the globe on parts of this model, which has really helped us inform how best to work with our clients in these spaces. This year we worked with Xero here in Australia on a sustainable transformation assessment and a plan, which really enabled that sustainability team and that technology function to determine how best to work together to achieve sustainability outcomes. Our Spotify example was really focusing in on green cloud practices and helping developers make the right decisions as they do their day-to-day. Finavia is a European airport. They knew already that one of their greatest sources of emissions related to aeroplanes coming into the airport and having to taxi or remain idle while waiting for the next space in the air traffic control to open up. So what we were able to do is think through how to improve that process, which obviously had great financial and other customer and passenger impacts, but also had a really good story to tell about carbon emissions reduction. And finally, Terrascope is a product, is a software as a service out there available for organisations wishing to do really interesting and innovative things around their own path to net zero. So all of that is very exciting. And as I said, it will depend a lot on which organisation you're working with or for. It'll depend where you are in that business, will really impact which parts of the sustainability and tech challenge you pick up. But having said that, there are some key principles that I'd like to talk about today. And we will go through these now, and we'll talk about some tips and tricks and some good suggestions about how you might start thinking about driving tech-enabled sustainability wherever you are joining us from today. So I've got 3 here. I could have had 30, but I was very resolute with myself and pulled out the 3 that I think are the most critical when thinking about this space. The first is about accountability. Who is accountable for sustainable outcomes at your organisation and who should be? Secondly, this notion of mutually reinforcing sustainability and technology, thinking about the opportunity of bringing those functions together in new ways. And finally, and really excitingly, thinking about tech teams and tech leaders and how these will be critical enablers and drivers of the sustainability execution that no doubt your organisation needs. So we'll move to each of these now. We'll talk a little bit about the principles and some ideas about how to get started. As I said, not all of this will be applicable to all organisations, depending on what's a priority for that organisation, but hopefully there's something in all of this that resonates with you and your organisation. Rethinking accountability is probably the most central piece to the tech-enabled sustainability challenge. It's probably key to thinking about sustainability execution across a number of domains. It is important to have a centralised sustainability team as the custodians of a sustainability strategy, and it is important to have long-term organisational goals around which everyone can gather. However, driving short-term outcomes and getting things done in the here and now requires another layer of execution, and that's what we'll talk about now. We'll talk about breaking down the work and why it's really important to keep thinking about the smallest pieces of work that can be delivered as quickly as possible. We'll talk about broad and deep consideration of accountability in ways you probably haven't yet had the chance to do. And we'll talk about data, which could have been another whole presentation. But I'll touch on data here and sustainability data specifically to the notion of new accountability for outcomes. Those of you joining us from a tech part of an organisation or who are more au fait with the tech language will see some of this in a quite familiar way. Those of you that don't really know terms like outcome-based planning, be reassured, it refers very much to a simple process of taking large complex goals and breaking them down again and breaking them down again to the smallest piece of deliverable work possible. The technologist will be nodding. This is the quickest way to get wheels happening, to get execution happening, to get value delivered. And our technologists can teach us a lot about that in the sustainability space. I've called out the notion of customer here because, again, this is something that comes through really strongly in a really compelling way when technologists think about getting work done. And it's something I think that sustainability people and other functions like sustainability need to really keep in mind. Who is the end user? Who is the customer of the initiative under your sustainability strategy? Who will benefit and for whom are you driving this value? Just to reiterate, bringing those initiatives down to the smallest piece possible, and it's not something that many sustainability strategists have needed to do because in the main, sustainability strategy has been about determining these large, big rocks that need to be tackled. It's now about breaking them down so they can be allocated out and delivered as quickly as possible. Which brings us to the notion of accountability. It won't surprise any of us to learn that there are many parts of a business that impact and also have an impact on sustainability performance. At a minimum, seek to allocate a small possible at the functional level. Find out who would be the best function in your organisation to deliver on this new smaller piece of work. But then, encourage that part of the business to think through the notion of cross-functional teams. It's very unlikely that any part of the business is going to have everybody that they need in their team to deliver even on a smaller piece of sustainability work. Learn from our tech colleagues who have seen and are routinely employing the benefits of cross-functional teams. Bring people from across the business together to drive on these initiatives and to get them done and bring back that progress back to the rest of the business. But critical to that is ensuring that these cross-functional teams are supported. We can't have people participating in sustainability work outside their day-to-day. This has to be very much part of the new call to arms, the new remit for organisations and for the people working within them. Bring that work up, make sure it's visualised, make sure the progress is celebrated, so that everybody understands that the work that they're doing is really meaningful and rewarded and respected. Which brings us to data. And anybody in the sustainability space right now is probably thinking, this is probably one of the biggest challenges that sustainability professionals are facing, and the notion of sustainability data is very complex. I'm talking about it here today only in one dimension, and that's how we use sustainability data to set internal measures of success. Whether that be a KPI or a team-based outcome measure, we can't ask our teams and our individuals to pick up responsibility or accountability for sustainability without the measurement of their progress and without being able to report back on how their contribution has made a difference. A really fabulous story about a head of finance I met recently who is a committed environmentalist, has been participating in climate change grassroots movements, as he said, since before I was born. And he said, there's nothing I'd rather do than be able to incorporate sustainability outcomes in my finance teams day to day. But I can't, because as soon as I'm asked the question, how does all this impact my end of year performance review or my bonus, I'm left without an answer. And that's why data is so important. We need to integrate this into the ways in which people are rewarded and recognised for their contribution across the board. Which is why reconsidering the data team in your organisation is possibly a good step forward. Depending on the size of your organisation, you may have a large data team, or you may have a smaller group of people who are working on data as an internal capability outside sustainability. And it is these people, I think, that if you only engage one sort of tech-adjacent team on your sustainability strategy, consider your data team. Consider ensuring that your data team is engaged and supported to buy in to a strategy around sustainability data, and where possible are co-owners or co-investors of that work, because the achievements that you, the sustainability team, and the data team can make together is beneficial not just for the sustainability arm and not just for the program, but for many users of data and many commercial applications of data across the business. The second principle is about mutually reinforcing sustainability in tech. And I use this term mutually reinforcing deliberately because I think it's really important to keep in mind, if we take as true, and we should, that the organisations of the future who are best at grappling with their sustainability risk and who have made the most of their sustainability opportunity will have a competitive advantage, then considering how sustainability and technology work together to make themselves stronger and better at what they do is really around organisational capability building. And that's the mindset I'd encourage anyone in technology or sustainability to adopt as they think through how to bring the teams closer together. There's probably three ways to start thinking about how sustainability and tech can be stronger together. The first is the ways in which teams collaborate and coordinate. The second is the differences in how sustainability and tech teams work. And finally, about embedding sustainability in technology, particularly for risk, which is a really important point today. Organic knowledge sharing between sustainability and technology as functions as teams is unlikely to happen without some support. This is because in the main, sustainability and technology programs rarely have cores to work together. And this is creating a bit of a gap in understanding. Our sustainability leaders need to become more au fait with the ways in which technology operates at their organisation. Understand who makes decisions in the function, what they make decisions about, what are the key outcomes and strategies and deliverables that your technology teams and functions are working on. Spend a bit of time understanding what their priorities are and how they actually work to get their outcomes out into the business. Tech leaders will need to come to a place of understanding around the breadth of material issues that their organisation has determined to be the most important, and understand how the role of technology in delivering on those sustainability goals is well and truly beyond tech infrastructure and operations. The technology can help and should help deliver sustainable outcomes across the broad breadth of the sustainability strategy. And that might be a shift for some of our tech leaders who've been thinking specifically about tackling the environmental social impacts of technology itself. Differences in ways of working is a challenge, obviously, for organisations and functions within them. There's a specific nuance for our sustainability and technology teams. And that's, as I've said, as sustainability leaders rarely have had the kind of exposure to technology and tech ways of working that they'll need. This is often a bit of a scary place. We love our technologists, but they speak their own language and they have their own processes. And it's really important for you to understand, as a sustainability leader, how that works as much as possible so that you can get confident and capable in participating in some of those processes. On the other side, technology leaders, you already do work with leaders like sustainability leaders across the business. You work closely with product, with marketing, finance, and many others. And you have set up processes that support and allow those non-technology leaders to engage with you and to work together to get shared outcomes delivered. Start considering how the sustainability team needs to form part of those processes that you already have in place to work with non-tech stakeholders. Embedding sustainability in technology, and this is particularly critical for sustainability risk, because business decisions being made today are likely to be underinformed about sustainability risk. And I'll say that again. Business decisions today are very likely to be underinformed about sustainability risk. And that's simply because the capturing and catching of those risks is not happening early enough in processes, particularly around product, service, development and delivery. Some of you will be aware of a superannuation company here in Australia who is facing some pretty tough times now from the regulator because claims made about one of their products and the sustainability credentials of that product are now being called into question. In the UK, there's over 40 organisations who are facing similar legislative recourse because sustainability claims are now proving to be overblown. So greenwashing as a serious concern for organisations globally. Building in checks and balances around sustainability across your organisation is really important. Thinking about how technology can help do that might be something you haven't thought about yet, but you really do need to start thinking about that. Because sustainability can become another element that tech teams pick up along the way through the design, through the discovery, through the delivery and development of initiatives. Technology teams are already looking for things like compliance, for security, for accessibility. Sustainability can be picked up and driven through tech processes in this way, creating a check and balance that's not really possible unless it's built into these kinds of processes. And finally, activating tech leaders and teams. As I said, a really exciting space because we know that technology and technologists are a business critical value, driver of value. And that's only going to happen with increasing intensity and breadth as more and more elements of business operations become augmented by and benefit from new technology and from tech ways of thinking. And sustainability is absolutely an example of that. So think about how tech leaders need to be engaged and drive sustainability today. Think about what they'll need to be doing into the future as these issues become more relevant. And think now about sustainability as being a driver of empowering and engaging your technology teams. The call to arms here is that if you're not doing it already, sustainability leaders, please elevate technology as a key enabler to your sustainability strategy. You will have already thought about ways in which other parts of the business are key to driving sustainable outcomes. Have a look and see where technology fits in your stakeholder decision making. Tech leaders are likely to want to know more about how to participate in the sustainability strategy. Many organisations are aware that the role of tech leaders in the sustainable execution is increasingly important, and they will want a close partner in their sustainability team to understand how to move forward on that. At a minimum, include technology and tech representatives in things like planning and strategy days. And this isn't a matter just of extending an invite, this is about engaging well with those tech leaders, determining who's the best fit to influence planning and strategy for sustainability. For tech leaders tomorrow, it is going to become increasingly important, as I've said and will say again, around sustainability risk management and opportunity realisation for organisations. And this is going to become a priority for all leaders, but tech leaders are obviously included in that. Think about how sustainability will impact technology investments and priorities, not just now but into the future, because there is going to become a time when this will be a critical part of a sustainability execution strategy and a tech roadmap. And getting prepared for that is the best advice we can give. This will mean new capabilities and new accountabilities for tech leaders who already know, gone are the days when you can be very focused only on your tech area or your tech teams, that as an enabler of value across the business, tech leaders are really asked to participate in that sort of value driving activity in a lot of spaces, and sustainability is next off the rank. And finally, motivating and empowering your people. So we all know that sustainability provides a unique sense of purpose for those coming to work for an organisation that purports to be or can prove to be a sustainable organisation that has a social or environmental purpose at its core, is doing the right thing by communities and by the planet. This is highly engaging for employees across the business, but particularly in the tech team. All demographics report this, but particularly younger people. And as the war for tech talent increases and intensifies over time, this becomes another really important part of your employee value proposition. So start today, think about the ways in which your tech teams themselves can innovate, the ways in which they can advocate, the ways in which they can pick up and identify ways in which their day-to-day can help drive a sustainability strategy, and I assure you, you'll be really pleased with the results. So, in conclusion, and thank you for your time today, a lot of information that I have shared. Please don't hesitate to drop any questions or reach out in any other way. I thought I'd pull out just 5 no-regret moves for tech-enabled sustainability. So regardless of where you are in your sustainability journey, regardless of where you are in your organisation, there are 5 key things you can help support that will really start to make some shifts around tech-enabled sustainability. The first is, as I've said, involve tech in existing collaborative and decision-making agendas and forums. This is not about creating new ways to get more information, it's about bringing technology onto existing places where those decisions are being made. Relentlessly break down those sustainability goals. You're likely to have large goals, you're likely to have your plan on a page. Enlist the help, if you need to, of someone in technology who is familiar with this kind of detailed planning, and be really rigorous about breaking the work down as small as you can go. Then think about who can help you deliver. But even starting with that process before you allocate those out is going to be really beneficial for your thinking about execution in sustainability. Around data, no doubt your organisation is already undertaking a lot of work to surface sustainability data. At the moment, it's likely to be for external reporting purposes, which is absolutely a priority and something you should continue to do. The suggestion here is that while you are working through that, while you're working through the surfacing of data for external reporting purposes, think also about how this data can be used for internal purposes, like KPI setting and setting measures of performance for teams. The call to arms for sustainability leaders today has been to learn more about technology and to get closer to technology, and we realise that is a significant challenge, and we do know that that's not something that happens overnight. The suggestion here is that if sustainability leaders think about only 2 elements of their technology function to start with, to get really comfortable with, that's to learn how your technology function intakes work and prioritises work. Depending on your organisation, that could be a quarterly process. So even if you don't have something right now on the agenda that you are hoping to engage technology teams with, sustainability leaders, learning how this works today will set you up for success when you need to do that work. And finally, empowering and engaging tech teams. A big job, and the suggestion here is that depending on the size of your organisation, again, there's likely to be a team or at least a person who's responsible for professional development within tech teams and internal communication and internal engagement. Seek that person or that team out. Learn how that person or that team gets messages out to the technology teams themselves, and see if you can provide a feedback loop with that function as it is today. And so I'll leave it there. Thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. If I leave you with one message, it's to say that all of this work really is around shifting of mindsets, augmenting processes, and there's lots that can be done in the short term. If there's anything else, of course, we can help with, we'd be very happy to help you think through how to start. Thank you.